I
That
think
is
so.
correct.
Yeah.
Once it's up on once we're finished, it's recorded and people can watch it anytime they want,
Oh.
anywhere.
And action.
Good afternoon. Welcome to On the Menu. I'm Bob Patillo, the host. Today is May the 28th, 2020. And our guest today is Mr. Shannan Wright, a very well-known person in Alamogordo. How are you, Shannan?
I'm doing great, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you for being here today. Shannan, would you tell us a little bit about your life to start this off, starting maybe with where you were born and how you ended up in Alamogordo?
Sure, I can do that. I don't want to bore everybody, but I'll give you a little bit of history on myself. A lot of people think I'm from here because I've been here for 40 plus years, but I actually was born in Fort Sam Houston Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, June 3rd, 1960. And I grew up in Owatonna, Minnesota, most of my childhood till I was in about ninth grade. And then we moved to Albert Lea, Minnesota, and moved on to a dairy farm. And that's where I went to high school and got my first taste of working in the real, well, actually, I got my first taste of working prior to that. But I grew up on a dairy farm. We had about 40 head of cattle, and I loved it. It was great foundation for me where I'm at in my life today. I graduated in 1978 from Albert Lea Central Senior High School. And I was involved in track, softball, 4-H, FFA. I worked at a Taco John's up there. I worked at a Godfather's Pizza, and I drove a milk truck for a creamery along with all my chores on the farm, which I had to do, or I didn't get to do some of the other extracurricular activities. After I graduated, actually prior to graduation, I kind of went to the School of Hard Knocks. That's the university I attended when I was a kid, School of Hard Knocks. I don't have a formal college education or an actual on-the-job vocational school education. Mine was just kind of get out there and get your hands dirty and roll up your sleeves and go to work. And in 1978, in 1977, I'd actually applied to go to a vocational school to be an electrician. Well, that school was filled up, and my senior year, there were no vacancies. So a buddy of mine said, hey, Troy, and that's what everybody called me when I was in high school. They called me by my middle name, Troy. And they said, he said, hey, let's go in the Air Force on the buddy program. And I said, okay. So that's what we did. We went up and took our test and passed all of that stuff. And a week after I graduated, I turned 18. 5 weeks later, I was in the Air Force. I went to Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, and I went through 6 weeks of basic training. I went through 8 weeks of, which was my career field in jet engines. Now I put in for several things. I put in for electrical, plumbing, heavy equipment operator, carpenter, and jet engines. We threw that one in there too. And lo and behold, I got jet engines. So they sent us through a 8-week crash course, which was pretty interesting. That was in Chanute, Illinois. Once I completed that, I got stationed. Well, this is the funny part. My recruiter said, don't put in for Cannon Air Force Base, Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota, and Holloman Air Force Base. Those are the 3 bases he said, don't put in for. So I put in all across the bottom part of the United States, Florida, California, Las Vegas, Arizona. And guess where I got sent to? I got sent to Holloman Air Force Base. So my first impression when I got here was, what am I going to be? Why is this place so bad? Well, when I got here, I loved it. I love the weather. I love the mountains being close. It was just, to me, it was an ideal environment. I grew up in Minnesota, so we usually had several feet of snow every year. And that was always a challenge and a chore to manipulate and work around with your daily routines. So when I got here in November and I could go outside in my shorts and t-shirt and wash my car, I thought that was a pretty cool deal. So anyway, I did that. The first 2 years of my Air Force career, I pretty much just focused on my job. And I worked at the 479th CRS test cell. I worked on the J-85 engine, which was a T-38 aircraft. And after being in 2 years, I got kind of bored because I was used to working all the time. So I went ahead and asked my commander if I could get a job off base. And he said, yeah, as long as it doesn't interfere with work. So I asked if I could be put on the swing shift, which is the night shift from 4 to 12. So I was able to get on the swing shift. So I'd work days downtown and I'd work nights out at the Air Force Base. And I actually went to work for Polson and Grady in January of 1980. So I've been doing that I'm going on my 41st year right now, which was really cool because that's what I've done ever since I've been here. And I love it. I started at the ground level, emptying trash cans, cleaning the shop, chopping weeds, delivering materials, minor maintenance on trucks, that kind of stuff. So I learned from the bottom up. In June of 1980, Tammy and I got married. We were introduced from a friend that I worked with out on the Air Force Base, and he was married to a local gal. So we went ahead and he asked me, he said, hey, Hoss, he used to call everybody Hoss. Why don't you come over? I want you to meet this chick. And I said, okay. So I got on my little Honda 350 motorcycle that I had at the time, and I drove into town, and about where Ed's Grocery used to be over here on the highway, it pooped out on me. So I said, man, I can't make it. My motorcycle died. So he came and got me. And that's when I met Tammy. And we hung out for a few times and got to know each other a little bit. And then we didn't date for a while. And at Christmas of 1979, she asked me to go to a Christmas party. And she was all dolled up and everything. And I said, yeah, I'll go with you. And we had a really good time. And I proposed to her on February 29th of 1980, and June 27th of 1980, we got married. So it'll be 40 years this year. And it's been fantastic. It's been a really, really good ride. And so anyway, I started working for her dad then in 1980. And in 1986, Polson and Grady split into 3 separate divisions: General Hydronics, Zuni Electric, and Southwest Air Systems. And that's when I got moved into the office, and I became vice president, and I worked under Mr. Grady's guidance. And her father was just an amazing man. He knew a little bit about everything. And I never, in the 40 years that I've known that man, have I ever not seen him been able to solve a problem or fix something or resolve it quickly. So I learned a lot from him. He taught me a lot of life lessons. So I'm very thankful for that.
Shannon, do you have any kids?
I've got 3 children. Troy is my oldest son, and he works at the company. Dusty, my middle son, he also works at General Hydronics. And then my daughter, Lexi. And they all live in town. And I've been blessed with 9 grandchildren. And the oldest one's 10 years old, and the youngest one just is about 18 months. So yeah, I've got the perfect world. I've got a good job, good wife, good kids, good grandkids. They all live in the same community. I get to see them all the time, spend a lot of time with them.
So that chick you went to meet turned out pretty good.
Yeah, at first, I probably shouldn't say this. I'll probably get in trouble for it later, but when I first met her, I thought she was a biker chick, but she was really cool. So I'll probably get in trouble for that one, but that's okay.
Yeah, you probably will. But you were a biker dude, but maybe at least her motorcycle worked.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, mine was just was not a good one. But anyway, no, I've been very blessed in my life. Mr. Grady gave me an opportunity of a lifetime, and I'm very thankful. In 1982, I got honorably discharged from the Air Force. I was a sergeant, and I would not trade my Air Force career or growing up on the farm for anything in the world. That's probably the 2 important things in my life, along with my mother, the way she raised us, of how I feel like I got to where I'm at in my life.
Well, Shannon, we all have influences in our life, different people. Tell me about some of the people that had influence on you.
So I think everybody has positive influences, and there's negative influences also. But to me, I like to try to make the negatives a positive. One of the big influences in my life was probably my mother. She raised 4 kids by herself. She provided for us. We always had a roof over our head. We had clothes on our back, food on the table. We need to go to the doctor. We went to the doctor. We need to go to the dentist. We went to the dentist. She was family orientated. She instilled that in us at an early age. She took us to church, taught us the value of Christian lifestyle. And that was one of the big influences in a positive. The other one was Mr. Grady, my father-in-law, because my father was not around. My father was probably, in my eyes, a negative influence in the sense that he wasn't there to be part of my life. And even though he wasn't, I still loved him and cared about him. But I just could not imagine why somebody would bring kids into this world and not want to be part of their lives. So in that respect, I think it made me want to be a better father, a better husband, and a better dad, grandparent. Mr. Grady, my father-in-law, he was amazing. He gave us opportunities. He taught us stuff, family values, work ethic. And I wouldn't trade any of those experiences for anything. So those are probably my main influences in my life.
Okay. I know that the people that you surround yourself with, for any person, is important. Tell me about the kind of people you try to have around you as your support.
So growing up, coming into the Air Force was probably very important because there was structure, there was accountability, there was, you were taught how to take care of yourself and how to be accountable for what you did. There was consequences for your actions. I always believe that the type of people you surround yourself are the type of people that are either going to lift you up or take you down. So I've always tried to surround myself with positive influences, smart people, hardworking people, ethical people. And a lot of those people are people like yourself, Bob, Randy Ravens, George Marianne Swears, Bobby Martinez, Rodney Eaton, Jimmy Randall, a lot of these people in our community, and I know I'm not naming a lot of them, but there's so many people in this community that have a vested interest and a genuine care and concern for their businesses, their families, and their lifestyles. And it reflects in the way our city has grown and changed these past 4 years that I've been involved with the chamber a little bit. So there's lots of people that probably don't get the credit that they should, but I love this town and I love everybody that contributes to its success.
Shannan, tell me what you've learned about the importance of relationships, not just personal relationships, but business relationships.
You know, we deal with so many different people in our business growing up. Since I've been involved in this business for the last 40 years, contractors, suppliers, co-workers, there's so many different people involved in every aspect of our job that your word is essential to a successful relationship and a successful business. You call upon people to get you information that you need to put a bid together. In our case, we have several suppliers, and because of the competitive market that we're in, yes, we have people that we would prefer to use, but we like to give everybody a shot at the work that we're doing and give them an opportunity to try and be part of our team. I've got some strong relationships that I have been working on for the past, honestly, 40 years, 35 to 40 years, and people that I keep in touch on a regular basis, whether I'm doing work with them or not. And to me, that's very important. It's not just talk to them or call them when you need them, but you keep that relationship current. And that way, when you do need something, you don't feel like you're taking advantage of them or using them. So to me, that's crucial. And I just think it's kind of neat just to call people out of the blue and see how they're doing aside from work.
Shannan, I want to mention to the people watching this that as we get to the end of the program, we're going to ask for questions. So you can text those to me at 430-0548. or use the chat feature on the Zoom to send a question to me. Shannan, tell me about taking advantage of opportunities when they present themselves.
You know, I've seen a lot of people who have been given opportunities in their life and have chose to go down a different path, and it's not always the good path. I could give you a fantastic example without naming names, but my father-in-law gave David Caraway and myself a fantastic opportunity. We worked for him for 20 years. We gave him everything that he expected plus, I believe. And I feel like we did our jobs to the fullest of our ability. Mr. Grady started this business back in 75, and in 2000 he retired, and David and I were given an opportunity to buy the business, and we did. And Mr. Grady set us up for success, let me put it that way. And it was up to us at that point in time to either make it a successful business or to squander it. We chose to make it a successful business. It's kind of interesting. I found out today of all days, I was having a meeting with my insurance agent today, and he goes, "Do you realize what you and David have done in the past 19 years?" And I said, "Not really." He said, "You guys have done over $150 million worth of work in this community in the last 19 years. And that's not counting what the 25 before that Mr. Grady had did." So I never would have guessed growing up as a kid that I'd have the opportunity or the good fortune to be successful like this. And on the other hand, I've seen people have had a very similar situation. Their father was in business and they were in a position to be set up like David and I were. And unfortunately, that individual chose to go down another path and ended up in a not so good place. And to see that happen to somebody is heartbreaking, because I don't want to see anybody fail. I want to see people succeed. And I'd like to think that I could be part of their success if I can just, be a friend of theirs or be available if need be. I ask a lot of questions. So.
Shannan, you mentioned earlier that you learned about work ethic early in life. Tell me what you see as far as work ethic in people that are successful and that are not successful. What are some of the common characteristics?
To me, successful people are eager to learn and don't have to be asked to do something. They're self-motivated and they do it on their own with little or no resistance. A buddy of mine and I used to deliver papers in the morning before we went to school. I think I was about 10 years old. We had 80 papers to deliver before we went to school. I was in 4th grade. We used to go around and mow people's yards, shovel snow, just odds and ends, things like that. That was me, because I wanted to make a buck and I wanted to, have some things. I grew up in a very meager lifestyle. My mother didn't have much, but we had everything we needed. I wouldn't trade my childhood for anything. And it's not all about what you have. It's about happiness and being content. And I had a fantastic childhood growing up. But the people that work hard, the people that get up early, the people that go do stuff without having to be asked, that's the kind of people that are successful. That's the kind of people that I want to be around. And accountability, honesty are all character values that I think are essential to a good, strong work ethic and a business. Now, to me, and I'm sure my parents thought the same thing. I'm sure Mr. Grady thought the same thing. This generation is going to hell in a handbasket, but I see it a lot different than what I feel like I was growing up. I see a lot of these kids these days, they don't seem to have the motivation, the determination, and the desire that I think is essential to want to succeed. It seems like the video games, the cell phones, all that kind of stuff, to me, are kind of a distraction. Even though they're essential in what we do for our livelihood, those are also a deterrent. They're good and they're bad. It just depends on how you use them in your life. But I don't see the same desire to get out there and get it done. Get dirty, roll up your sleeves, go to work, put in that extra 15 minutes here or there, or do the extra, whatever you got to do, work a Saturday, stay a little bit late at night. That to me is essential for people's success.
So Shannon, now that you mentioned those characteristics of some of the people you've seen that aren't very motivated, do you think that makes it easier for people that do have a good work ethic these days to be successful?
Oh, definitely. Used to when I was growing up, there was a guy standing in line ready to take your job. And, if you wanted to put food on the table and you started having a family, that's an obligation. That's a commitment you need to make. And I've never been fired in my life. The jobs that I did move on from, it wasn't necessarily because I wanted to, but it was just stages in my life. And every job that I ever left, I was asked to come back. If you ever need a job, come and see me, which I'm proud of that. I'm not bragging. I'm not trying to sound conceited, but that's the kind of impression I wanted to leave with people. I was very proud of my work ethic, and I don't see that as much in people today. People are just they're so-so, they're mediocre with stuff. But I just would like to see things turn around a little bit like they were back, 20 years ago, where people were hungry.
Shannon, you said to me one time that your work is your autograph. What does that mean?
Absolutely. When you go out and do something for anybody, whatever the task is, whether it's something simple like when I was young, shoveling the driveway, mowing a yard, or whether it was working for Mr. Grady and it was changing out a water heater, or going out to a job doing something bigger, a larger project, installing mechanical piping, boilers, chillers, whatever we did. At the end of the day, when you walk away from your job, doing things right the first time, cleaning up your messes after you're done, leaving things in tip-top shape where somebody doesn't have to come up and clean up behind you, that's what people see. That's what people remember. Now, you can be hurry up and get stuff done, but like we mentioned before, quality or quantity, and I think you can have a little bit of both. I don't think you have to hurry up and do something so fast that it looks terrible. I'd rather see somebody take just a little bit longer and do it nice and neat the first time. Nobody has time in these jobs to do them twice. That's not the way we bid projects. That's not the way we do our work. We insist and have expectations of our employees. And we talk about all these jobs before they go out there. When you do something and you walk away at the end of the day, is that something you'd be happy with if you were paying for it? And that's what we want to instill in these individuals.
So let's talk a little bit about legacy. I think if my math is right, you're going to be turning 60 next week.
You are a sharp individual, Mr. Patillo.
Well, that's just because I know that I'm about a year ahead of you. So,
okay.
So what I've noticed with my friends that are in the 60 plus age is that they start thinking about their legacy, because you're closer to the end than you are to the beginning. And a lot of our friends our age, you start thinking about what are you going to be leaving behind.
Absolutely.
What's your view on that? What would you like yours to be?
Like I said, when I was growing up, my mother left a legacy. She left a legacy of how to be responsible for raising your kids, getting them off to a good start, giving them an opportunity, instilling values in them that'll last a lifetime. And that's what I want to do with my kids. My kids, I've been so blessed in my lifetime to get to spend the time that I have with them, whether it be coaching, going on field trips, going to school and having lunch with them, just playing in the neighborhood, whatever it was. I want my kids and my grandkids to have this memory that their dad or their grandfather spent time with them, quality time with them, taught them stuff, was there for them, good and bad, not just when it was convenient. And I want them to be able to think back and look at not just me, but what Mr. Grady provided for us, the opportunity. That's a legacy. I want to carry on his legacy. He started something for his family and he handed it off to us in good shape. And we were good stewards with it. And we were determined to be successful and make him proud. And that's what I feel like my boys will do in this business. And my daughter is not part of the business, but She's got her own things that she does, and she's very, very good at it. And I feel like a lot of this stuff where my kids are at is because of the opportunities we were given in our lifetime. So a legacy to me is important. I want fond memories. I want good memories of the things that we were able to do for our kids and our grandkids.
Shannan, let's talk about learning. Now that you've been a successful businessman for a long time and you've raised a wonderful family, have you just quit learning at this point in your life?
No, sir. Every day I try to find something that I can say I learned or I didn't know that. I like to see what I can take away at the end of the day, something that was, whether it's good or bad. You don't have to learn just from the good, you can learn from the bad too. And learning involves making mistakes. And the way I feel about it is if you don't make mistakes, you're not doing anything. The other key part of that is if you're making mistakes, don't do them over and over and over again. And I see that also. I see some people, one day they'll go out and do something. It's like, what in the heck did you do that for? And then about a week later or somewhere down the road, it's like they do it again, you know? And to me, that's not what life's about. If you make a mistake, try to learn from it, try to fix it, try not to let it happen again. And the other thing is if you have somebody who's giving you advice, whether it's a coworker, an elder, or just a friend, if they're giving you advice, chances are they've been through something in their lifetime that would reflect upon. And it doesn't mean you have to accept that or listen or take it for what it's worth, but at least acknowledge it and think about it before you do something that you're going to regret down the road. I'd like to think that, the things that I've learned over the years, and if I can pass them on to my kids, I can save them some hardships down the road, possibly.
Shannan, tell me how important your church family is to you and your spiritual beliefs.
Everybody has different views on that. I grew up in a Christian home, and I think that's very important in this day and age. And I think the sad thing is, I think our society is kind of getting away from that to an extent. They're trying to take God out of schools, out of businesses, out of government. And to me, I think that's wrong because that's where you get your morals and values and your character qualities from. Church family is very important because a lot of times you have friends and small groups and people that you are involved with that hold you accountable. And sometimes we all go through different struggles in our lives, but having someone there to talk to in confidence or whatever the situation is, or in your small groups or whatever, I just think it makes it easier for people to stay on the right track. I find that when I go to church and when I sit and listen to the messages and I'm around people like that, I'm a lot more aware of my surroundings and decisions that I make on a daily basis. A conscience, I think a conscience is crucial. And that's where I think going to church and having that background comes in, because a lot of times people do stuff without fully thinking about it. And I do believe that the more you have that instilled in you at an early age, the more thought you put into different decisions you make in your lifetime.
Shannan, in the past, you and I have talked about, I think your words were a maker or a taker. Tell me about that.
Well, there's makers and takers, and my definition of makers and takers are this. Makers are people that get up, go to work, provide for their families. They take whatever risks it takes, whether they're working for somebody or their business or whatever path they take in their life. You make your way in your life. You can either make it a good life or you can make it a bad life. Being productive, being an asset to society, being a person that people want to remember. That's the kind of explanation I guess I would have to say that I have for makers. There's people who make and provide, and then there's takers. There's people who are content with just sitting back, not putting any effort into their life, not putting any, no skin in the game, I guess you could say. And the people that I consider makers to me are people that have actually taken the risk in life to put everything that they own, everything that they have vested in their businesses on the line every single day and take that risk to succeed. And it's not easy. And I think you can agree with me that the more we go on in this lifetime, the more difficult things are because of all the insurance and liabilities, and just like this event that we're going through today. Who can plan for something like this COVID pandemic? I mean, there's so many people that are getting hurt by this. It's not even funny. And those people that are makers, they're struggling right now, and they put everything they've got on the line, and they've got everything to lose. And those are the kind of people we need to support and help take care of and help them succeed.
Another thing you and I have discussed, Shannon, is learn from your mistakes. Tell me why that's important.
Well, I think I kind of probably got into this a little bit earlier on the never stop learning thing, but learning from mistakes is crucial for everybody. I mean, nobody wants to do stuff over and over and over where it continually costs them time and money and aggravation. Life's difficult enough when it's going your way, let alone when you have obstacles in your way that make it tough. I've seen several people in my lifetime that were, like I said earlier too, born into a situation of opportunity or they weren't. So to me, makers are people that don't have those opportunities, or they're given those opportunities and they run with them. And I watched other people over my lifetime, and I've seen how they've handled those situations. That's where I feel like I've learned is I wanted to succeed. I was hell bent on being successful and providing for my family. And I think most parents are that same way. They want their kids to have as good or better life than they've got. I want my kids to be 10 times more successful than I've been and blessed than I've been. And I wish nothing but the best for them as I move on in my next phase of my life. I look at it like a football game. I'm in the fourth quarter. 0 to 20 is the first quarter, 20 to 40 is the second quarter, 40 to 60 is the third quarter, and I'm going into the fourth quarter. And I don't know. I'd like to think that there might be some overtime, but you never know. So, like I said, learning from your mistakes can extend that stage of your life where you get to.
Shannon, earlier you talked about how when you started with your father-in-law that you did some of the ground level jobs. You didn't just go in as the president of the company. How do you think that contributed to your success?
That's a huge thing. A lot of people don't start at the very bottom. Most people in the construction industry typically do, unless you're in that position where you have somebody who's already got something going. I wanted to learn from the ground up because I know every aspect of the business. I know what it takes to perform each and every task that we do. I know what the time and the value is of those different tasks and how to put a job together. So for me, starting out at the very bottom, and even to this day, I still get out in the field with the guys, not as much as I used to by any means, but I will still go out to job sites. I'll still get out there and shovel. I'll still go out there and help demo a project. I'll go out and do different things. I just think it's crucial to show everybody that works in your company that you're not too good to do anything that you wouldn't do yourself. So I think it's important to be that example and have that experience so somebody can't say, oh, you ain't never done that. Well, I have done that. I've been there and I've done it. And I think that just kind of makes people reaffirm to them that you're willing to do whatever it takes to make that business successful. I feel a true obligation to every one of my employees and my family members to be there for them, to put in whatever hours it takes to run this business and run it successfully, because they've got bills to pay, they've got mouths to feed, they've got obligations in their life. And I take work home a lot of times at night and work on it. I can get more done at home when it's quiet sometimes than I can in the office with the phones ringing and customers coming in and different situations like that. But for my career, I put in an average probably of 40 to 60 hours a week, literally almost every day. Now, my boys will probably agree with me here. This last few months, I've probably been slacking off a little bit, but I still get out there and I still do things and I still show up. But I'm letting my kids make the decisions. I want to see how they handle situations and how they react to them and what kind of decision-making power that they have, and if it's something that I would do or not. And so far, I've been pleasantly pleased.
You mentioned earlier that you did not come from a wealthy family, being raised by a single mom. Shannan, if you had come from a wealthy family, do you think you would be as successful as you are now?
Probably not. I think having that simple lifestyle and seeing how other people have had those opportunities, have reacted to that. I think coming from where I came from, I have a lot deeper respect and appreciation for it. Everything I've got in my life, I've had to work for, whether it be a car, a stereo, clothes, whatever. When you have skin in the game, when you have to work to earn and to buy something, you appreciate and understand the value of it. And it makes you want to take care of it and make it last. And that's like when you get a little bit older and you buy a house or you buy a car, you appreciate that more than somebody who's just has it handed to them. When people hand you stuff, you don't know what it took them to have to buy that or have to purchase that, or what kind of struggles they went through to get to that stage of their life. I think it really makes you appreciate where you come from and where you're going. I just can't see working that hard for something and not taking care of it. So I think it has definitely helped me coming from the background that I came from.
Shannan, how important is it to live below your means?
It's very important. Everybody wants to have nice things and go do fun things but I don't think anybody, regardless of what your financial status is or your social status is, should live beyond their means. The rule of thumb I was always taught growing up was, save, save, save. And it's easier said than done. When Tammy and I were young, we lived paycheck to paycheck. And we had everything we wanted. We had everything we needed. We had a house, we had a car. Our kids were involved in sports and stuff. That was priority to us. And that took a lot of time and money. Tammy didn't work for many years, so she could be at home with the kids and raise them. And I think that's another thing that's kind of, you can spin off of this relationships topic that I came up with today. When you invest time in your kids and spend that energy guiding them, that's going to make them better citizens, make them better people. But no, I wouldn't trade anything I've got in my life. I've been very blessed, probably blessed better than I deserve most days. Not going to lie to you.
Tell me your theories on debt. Is it good, bad? Do you like a lot of it, a little bit of it? What's your theory?
To me, debt is bad. I know you're going to have some. You're going to have a house. You're going to have a car. Those are kind of normal things. But I've always encouraged my kids to try to save as much as they can, keep their debt down as much as possible. If you want something, save up for it and buy it if you can, if it's not a big item. If it's a big item, you better plan on living off of your basic income. In our business, we have two worlds. We have the private sector world, which is a lot less than what the government work is. Give you an example, a plumber working in town might make 15, 20, 25 bucks an hour. Okay. Well, you go out to the base and work, or you work on a school or a state project or a city project. Sometimes those same people might make $40, $45 an hour. That's almost double the income in some cases. When some of these individuals work on these scale jobs or the Davis-Bacon wage jobs, they tend to go spend more money and buy stuff, not looking at the long picture, the long-term effects that, well, what if that job stops in a year? What if it gets over and there's no other work to go to? Now I'm back to my town wages. So I always encourage our employees to live off of their base pay, which is their minimum. And if they get some of the other work, the higher wages, pay off some debt, put some money in savings. We offer a 401k program at our business. Everybody that works here has the opportunity to pitch in, and we pay up to 3% of their salary on an annual basis. So that's something that's good. I didn't have that growing up, and I wished I'd have been more a better steward of that. But like I said, I didn't have that opportunity at the time, but we did take care of everything that we needed. But in my opinion, debt is bad. The less you have, the better off you are. It gives you a little bit more freedom and you can sleep better at night.
Shannon, what has been one of the biggest hurdles you faced in business, and how did you overcome it?
Probably one of the biggest hurdles we have is our own system, the rules, the regulations, the micromanaging of people telling you how to run your business that don't have any skin in the game. It's unbelievable. Used to, when I first started in this business, we'd get a job, we'd go to the job, we'd dig our ditches, we'd go bust out concrete, we'd drill our holes, we'd get our pipe. It was that. You just go out, do your work, get it done, go home at night. Now you got OSHA, you got EPA, you've got all these agencies that are telling you how to do this, this, and this. And not only are they telling you how to do it, but it puts a financial burden on you because now you have to spend money on all this training, safety, whatever. Now, I agree with the safety and the training. I don't have an issue with it, but it does make it a lot more difficult to get projects done and the time it takes to get them done.
You mentioned that you've done over $150 million worth of business in your company over the last many years. What kind of formal business training did you have? And if you didn't have any, how did you get it? And when did you finally start feeling confident that you could look at a set of financials in your own business and actually know what's going on?
Well, like I said earlier, I don't have any degrees or any. I got a high school education, and I went to the University School of Hard Knocks, and that was about it. Roll up your sleeves, go do what you're asked to do it with a good attitude, be happy. So for me, I kind of feel like I kind of got a little dumb luck sometimes, and I'm not gonna be ashamed of that or anything, because sometimes dumb luck is better than no luck at all. But decisions that you make, just being financially responsible is the key to this. You know, knowing what your income is, knowing what your expenses are. You got to do budgets, whether it's a personal life or whether it's a business. You got to understand budgets and the expenses that are going out every month. Once you get to that stage and understand that, then you're in a lot better shape. You know what you can and can't afford. When we worked for Mr. Grady, we didn't have as much access to, information like how much the job's made, how much insurance cost, how much the accountants cost, all that kind of stuff. When he decided to retire, I don't think we had a whole lot of notice about that. So I honestly didn't get a lot of training on that until after he had stepped away, and we were involved more. Now, the thing that did help us is my sister-in-law, Kathy Caraway. She'd been working in the business for many, many, many years. So she already had a great understanding of all of that, which made it an easier transition for David and I. So, as far as training goes, I don't think you have to be a college degree graduate to succeed. I think just having a good work ethic, good character values, and listening a lot. Listen more than you talk in regards to what you're doing or questions you might have regarding a certain situation. And I think you'll eventually get to where you want to be.
Shannan, how important is it to have a good accountant and an attorney?
It's huge. There's so many tax laws, so many different, and I'll give you an example. When Tammy and I first got married, this is funny because we went over to Randy and Sherry Raven's house one time when we were young, and they helped us fill out our taxes for us. I think it was about 2 or 3 or 4 pages. And it took us about 15 minutes to do it ourselves with their guidance and their, we talked and stuff. So this year I got my taxes back. It was 72 pages. And there's no way the average Joe, whether you're a college graduate or vocational graduate, there's no way you can understand and learn all of that stuff unless that's the career field you go down and that's what you do for a living. So having a good accountant is crucial, because when you make money, they can advise you on how to invest it, where to spend it, what not to spend it on, and when not to spend it. A lawyer is essential as well, because when you're writing up contracts for projects, you sometimes get this is another key example. When we started out in this business, you'd get a contract from somebody, it'd be 2-3 pages long. You'd sign it on the back. There was a dollar amount, how many days you had to do the project, and if there's any liquidated damages on it or not. I've seen contracts that we have signed at Polson and Grady, the 3 companies, Zuni, General Hydronics, and SAS, that have been over 80 and 90 pages long. Now, there's no way the average Joe can sort through that stuff and make sense of it. But you know what? We'll send them to our attorney. We'll send them to our insurance agent. We'll let them look through them a lot of times, get advice on it. And then obviously either you sign it or you don't do the work. So all you have to do is perform, and chances are you're not going to have any problems.
Shannon, what kind of competitive advantage does it give a business owner if they have the reputation for high integrity?
There's early on in my career, having that good reputation was probably a big plus, because people weren't as worried about the price if they knew they were going to get a good job. Now, I'm not saying you would take advantage of that situation, but if you had a good reputation, did a good job, performed your task like you were supposed to in a timely fashion, chances are they're going to call you back on the next job. We have some great working relationships to this day with people in this community where it's kind of like a handshake type deal. And Mike Drunger and his crew is one of them. When they do subdivisions and things in this town, they call up David, or they, called me up in the past when we were one company. And hey, I need a subdivision over here. It's got 32 lots. Here's the plans. When can you start? And we'd send them a bid and we'd go do the work, just like that. It was no shopping around, no dragging your feet. Well, I can get this guy to do it for $10 a lot, less. So, those are crucial. But this day and age, money's everything. Everybody's trying to watch their bottom dollar. So whoever gets a job these days is pretty much based on who left out the most stuff. So if you leave stuff out of a job, you better have the means and methods to offset that, get it done in a timely fashion. And sometimes it's going to cost you a little bit of money to get that job done. But do you want to go down in flames, or do you want to go down with that reputation on if something fails, you're still going to be there to pick up the pieces?
Shannon, would you be willing to share with us a mistake that you made in business and what you learned from it?
Say that again, Bob, on the what?
Would you be willing to share with us a business mistake that you made and what you learned from it?
Well, I remember one time when this was right off the get-go after Kenny retired and Dave and I bought the business. One of the first projects I bid was a job up in Ruidoso. And we were excited about it because it was a big job, but the bids came in, we were the low bidder at around $400,000, and there were bids all the way up to $1 million. So you can imagine being the low bidder when you had 4 or 5 bids above you that went from $500,000 to $1 million. What kind of a feeling that gives you? David went up there and looked at the job, and he said, you know what? He said, I don't think we can do it for that. This is going to be a tough job. He said, there's no room, there were just so many obstacles in the way. And that's the only time in my career that we've ever had to use a bid bond to not do a job. So what a bid bond is, if you bid on a project and you choose not to do it, they can take it's like a 5%. And you have to pay that 5%, and then you don't do the job, they go to the next bidder. Well, that hurt. That was right out of the chute. But that was probably the best 5% bid bond that we could have done, you know. And luckily, I have to admit, we've not had really that many bad jobs. We've had some that didn't go as good as we liked, but that's one mistake. So you always want to make sure you read the plans, read the specs, go do site visits, really, really dive into these things and make sure that you're not assuming things. Make sure that you've got all the facts and that you're putting a bid together that's got everything that you need to do it. It's better to have a job that's got everything in it than to get one where you don't, and then you end up beating a lot of money. And luckily, we have not really had that happen in our careers too often.
Shannan, knowing what you know now, if you were starting your business over and you had the wisdom of a almost 60-year-old, what would you do differently over the last few decades with your business?
You know, I don't know that I do a whole lot different. I mean, I thoroughly enjoy getting up in the morning and going to work. I will say where David and I had a little bit of an advantage is the fact that this was already in motion. We already had it set up. So the transition was smooth because we've been working there for many years. For a young guy or a new guy just to say, hey, I want to be a plumber today, I want to start a plumbing business or whatever business it happens to be, it's scary when you think about it if you don't have that background to understand. Working is one thing, but learning all the office stuff, the bidding the job, having the secretaries, doing the payroll reports, doing the certified payrolls, there's so many expenses and there's so many different things that the average Joe just does not understand what it takes to run a business. I mean, we literally have to work the first 3 to 4 months of a year to pay our overhead, at least, if not more sometimes. That's how much expenses there are in a business. I remember a couple of years, David and I, when we were going full bore, we had 100, 125 employees. There was a year or two in there, we had $400,000 a year just in repairs and maintenance. So, I mean, you can imagine the volume of work that you have to do to offset that to where you can even begin to make money, let alone pay wages. And that's something I can say that I'm proud of. When we were General Hydronics Plumbing, nobody has ever missed a paycheck in the 41 years that I've been doing this. Nobody's ever gone home without a paycheck. Their pay was always one of the first priorities. Our bills were the second priorities. And then if we had money left over, we got paid. And that's just the way it is. You take care of your employees and they'll take care of you.
Shannan, we got 2 more questions and then we're going to wrap it up for today.
Okay.
Do you consider yourself in your life a success? And if so, why or why not?
Well, I consider myself a success in the sense that, for one, I was born in this country. That's an opportunity of a lifetime just to be born in this country. 2, to have had an opportunity and it turned out better than what my expectations ever could have or would have been. And to have 3 healthy children and have 9 healthy grandchildren and a loving wife who's been by my side. And I think a few of you guys that are probably watching and listening know this. I'm a really pretty quiet guy and I don't normally talk much and I don't really say a whole lot of stuff. I'm kind of reserved. But I would have to say my life has been a greater success story than I could have ever imagined. But I think it's taken a lot of hard work and it's taken a lot of just the people I surround myself with. That's been my success too, watching other people and getting advice from them.
Real quick, Shannan, would you rather have more time or money right now?
Well, I tell you what, it's nice to have the money because it allows you to do some things that not only for yourself, but for your kids, your grandkids, and your friends. But time to me, I think is probably valuable. I tell you what, I've got those 9 grandkids. I get to see them all the time and I absolutely love spending time with them. And I never knew my grandfathers growing up, and I never got to have that relationship or that experience, like most people do. So for me, time is crucial because I want to spend every minute that I can with those kids. It's kind of funny because my grandsons, I'll pick them up in my GTO and I'll take them to breakfast every once in a while. They call it the breakfast car. But when I get the girls, which isn't as often, the boys call it the lunch car because they don't get up as early. So, so time is to me is important because I tell you what, I cherish every moment I get to spend with them.
So this is the last question, Shannan, for today, and I'm afraid to ask it, but I'm going to just turn you loose.
Okay, what might that be, Bob?
The question is regarding the current economic and health crisis. What advice would you offer to President Trump and Governor Lujan Grisham?
Boy, that is a tough question. I honestly feel like we're being tested. I feel like the government is shutting us down. I don't know if this is a test run. I don't know if it's intentional. I totally understand the seriousness of illnesses and diseases. I was watching a show the other day, and they were talking about the influenza or the flu back in 1918 that killed millions of people. We've progressed so much since then and have knowledge and experience and the resources to be a lot safer. I honestly think that wearing these masks is a personal choice. I respect those that want to wear them, but I don't care to wear one. I feel like if you don't go sneezing and spitting and coughing on people, everybody's going to be just fine. They need to let us get back to work instead of trying to ruin the economy. I think this is a political ploy, but that's just me saying. I think Trump's doing a good job with it. I wished our governor would lighten things up and let people get back to work. I don't want to be a socialist country. If I did, I'd move to Venezuela or one of those other countries that offers that as a lifestyle.
Okay, well, Shannan, thank you so much for your time. Alamogordo is very, very fortunate to have you and your family here with all the contributions that you make. I wish you continued success with your kids and your grandkids and your business, and hope to see you very soon.
Well, thank you. I do have one more comment. I'm into trivia stuff.
Okay.
I was researching today, and this is really weird, but they say the average person spends more time on the toilet than they do exercising. And of course, me being a plumber, that intrigued me. So that caused me to have bring out the entrepreneur, and I call it, because I'm a plumber, I call it an entrepreneur spirit.
Yeah.
And I am going to invent this toilet that's got oars on it. So you can exercise while you're on the toilet, and the faster you roll, the faster it'll flush. So I'm offering a 20% discount to people that purchase early. So,
Well, I can't wait. I can't wait to see that on QVC, Shannan.
Well, right. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for the opportunity.
You bet. All right. Thanks to all of you that have watched this and have joined us, and enjoy your day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.